So, Dan Bongino, the former FBI director, attacked um, again Joe Kant. So, what's the story is about? So, Joe Kant was the former director of the counterterrorism, National Counterterrorism Department, and he's famously the one who resigned over the Iran war. It is said that both him and Tulsi Gabbard, actually, there's a new report also that confirms that Tulsi was against the war. So both of them spoke to Trump directly about the danger of this war, including suspecting that it will close the expecting that it will close the Strait of Hormuz. So then Bongino crashes out again over Joe Kent. He attacks him again, and he attacked him also after the Tucker Carlson appearance, mainly because Joe Kent was investigating uh, an potential foreign line or foreign connection to the death of Charlie Kirk. And although he didn't say explicitly that Israel is behind it, he spoke about the growing Zionist pressure on Charlie Kirk right before his death. So Joe Kent uh, pretty much said that and confirmed, and I choose to believe him, that the investigation was shut down by the FBI, that they were not allowed to carry on this investigation despite having enough clues that there might be a foreign uh, connection to the Charlie Kirk's death. So one thing that cuts my eye every time one of these hoax speaks, and mind you, I'm not gonna waste time trying to analyze what Dan Bongino has to say. The man lost all credibility after he sunk willingly and lied about the Epstein investigation. But what really cuts my eye and cuts everyone's eye is the fact that the same people that defended Trump over the Epstein allegations, the same people who sunk that investigation are exactly the same people that are trying to sunk the Charlie Kirk investigation. Why is it that there is always an alignment between the Epstein case and the Charlie Kirk's case? It's almost as if the perpetrator is the same person and the people who protect that person are the same people. So that leads us to believe overwhelmingly uh, names have defended both cases. We're talking Ben Shapiro, we're talking Dan Bongino, we're talking Kash Patel, we're talking Pam Bondi, we're talking members of the Trump administration, the list goes on and on. So this leads us to believe that truly people who are both the same people or the same foreign power or the same uh, entity, whatever you want to call it, because Zionism is no longer uh, limited to borders. I believe that the Israeli project goes beyond borders at this point. It seeks global dominance. Uh, we led to believe that it's the same entity behind both cases, and the reason why I think that this is the strongest argument against against Charlie Kirk being killed just by a lefty lunatic is that it really did serve nobody to kill Charlie Kirk in the way that he was murdered and at the time that he was murdered, other than the Zionist movement. And Charlie pretty much was not receiving any threats before his death other from the Zionist movement, the Zionist donors. At the same time, the same people who protected Jeffrey Epstein's diabolical circle or list of clients are the same people that are protecting the what we believe is the real entity, or the, because I believe there's more than one person on the Charlie Kirk's assassination train. I think that there is a significant number of people inside TPUSA and outside TPUSA that were behind this murder. So the same people that have the power to close and shut down the Jeffrey Epstein investigation will have the power to shut down the Charlie Kirk investigation. Why? Because they will have the leverage of blackmailing the most powerful people inside the country. So think about it. If this was, for example, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, China, Russia, the left, whoever was behind Charlie Kirk's murder, he would not have the power to nail the entire American government to his will and force them to hide the truth about the Charlie Kirk's murder. But if it's the same person that had enough power to close off the Epstein investigation, then closing off the Charlie Kirk's investigation is a piece of cake for them. And it's a piece of cake for them because they have truly a very powerful leverage, the kind of leverage that will destroy certain political very powerful political figures, including Trump, at the top of list, Donald Trump, because we know that everyone who was hired in this administration is pretty much a loyalist, a servant, a slave to Donald Trump. So if they seeked and were able to force Trump and to force Trump's FBI, except for Joe Kant, except for Tulsi Gabbard, because probably they were able to conceal a lot of information from them, and Joe Kent was not allowed to carry on this investigation. If they were able to force this administration, the entirety of this administration, to close off the investigation and try to convince the public and convince us that Tyler Robertson is the one behind this, it's because they had true leverage. Now, why would they do that? How can they do that if this were two different entities or two different people? What benefit would they have? The only way that the same entity that has the exact same benefit and has the leverage to close both cases, then the cases must be connected, and the person who was behind both of these scandals, really, it's scandalous how the American government has acted when it comes to this investigation, must be the same person, and it must be, or the same entity, and they must be very, very powerful and capable. And we know right now that the only one who has that much power over Washington and the decision makers in Washington and the businessmen that surround this administration, whether inside the administration, inside the military industrial complex, or even outside, because they control enough of the market, are the Zionist movement, backed by the AIPAC lobby, and behind it the Israeli government. Mind you that Benjamin Netanyahu, just few minutes after Charlie's death, was the first to announce his sadness over the murder of Charlie Kirk. It is absolutely insane that the information reached him right away before anybody else. And, of course, Candace Owens led the investigation into tearing completely the Charlie Kirk investigation and the Charlie Kirk case that Tyler Robertson was the one behind it. She completely tore it apart. She found many, many holes, and the story is not linear anymore. It doesn't make any sense anymore. So you have a foreign leader who felt complied to announce, to come out in person to express his condolences, talk about a guilty conscience, needs to come out and express his condolences to Charlie Kirk over and over and over again to show that he cares, as if he truly cares. He doesn't even care about the skeletons, the endless amount of skeletons, of baby skeletons buried in Gaza. He doesn't care about Lebanon, Syria, all these civilians that he murdered. He doesn't care about. He doesn't even care about his own people. Charlie Kirk was one of the people that even suggested that there was a stand-down order in the 9th of October. So this is a man that potentially put his own people as cattles, as a price, so the life of his own civilians as a price worth paying for launching this war on Gaza. He's gonna really be sad about Charlie Kirk, and the fact that he was the first one, few minutes after Charlie Kirk's death, to go to Twitter and talk about it and confirm it is very eyebrow raising. And I think it's not a surprise at all that Dan Bongino and other figures, other loyalist figures to the Zionist movement and to Donald Trump, are coming out to try and defend this, to try and defend the case against Tyler Robertson and try to shut down Joe Kant and anybody who questions potentially the Zionist movement being involved. It's very obvious why with the same people that defended the Epstein case would defend the Charlie Kirk's case.